When it comes to PhD applications, everyone always talks about grades or GPA. And I get it, throughout life, grades have always mattered. And if you're sitting there looking at your 2.1 or your 3.3 GPA and thinking this disqualifies you, you would be wrong. But I think it's more important to talk about what gets you through your PhD application and your interview. And spoiler, it's not just your grades. Hi, if you're new here, my name's Aku. I'm a second year neuroscience PhD student studying in London. And today I want to give you the honest truth about what PhD committees are actually looking for and how to build a portfolio if you're starting from scratch. So let's get into it. So I get asked about PhD applications constantly, and one question I always get asked is my grade too low? And I want to be really honest about this. A high GPA or grade will get your application through a computer file, but that is all it tells them. And honestly, some of the most brilliant researchers I know had a rough undergrad experience. And it's important to remember that grades do not reflect what you're actually capable of. Academia sometimes doesn't account for that. So yes, your grades may initially matter during the screening phase, but what actually gets you into a PhD program? What will make your supervisor choose you over someone with a 4.0 GPA? This is your research portfolio. And this brings me to the most important shift you can make right now. Think of a PhD application in 2 stages. Stage 1, can you handle academic rigor? Your grades, your transcripts, your degree classification, they answer that question, and this gets your application into the pile. Stage 2, are you a good researcher? And this is an entirely different question, but grades doesn't even answer. So stop trying to fix your GPA or your grade. That's done, it's final. Start building evidence that you can actually do research. And this evidence is your research portfolio. So what does a research portfolio actually look like? And more importantly, how do you start building one? I'm going to give you 4 practical points. The first thing and the most direct route is to volunteer in a lab. I'm going to tell you this from personal experience, because this is how I got my very first lab position in a lab in King's College, London, through a cold email. I had no formal research experience before this. I was just an undergrad looking for some work to do. Now, the instinct most people have is to email a supervisor with something like, hey, I'm interested in research, can I join your lab? But this is unlikely to get you through the door, because this tells the supervisor absolutely nothing about you. And it puts all the effort on them. The version of cold emailing that actually works looks slightly different. You read one of their papers, and honestly, one is enough. You find something in that paper that honestly interests you and ask a question about it. Not a PhD question, just a research question. Something like, I read your 2025 paper on X, and I was interested about how you approached Y. Would you have 20 minutes for a quick chat? That's it. That's the whole strategy. Because now you're not asking them for a favour, you're showing them that you already think like someone who belongs in research or in a lab. Once you're in the lab, even if you're just helping out, washing up equipment, running gels, inputting data, you are learning. And most importantly, you become someone your supervisor can vouch for. And I know this works because it worked for me. The second thing, and honestly it's kind of an underused route, is applying to a structured summer research programme. And there are more of these than people realise. In the UK, the UROP is the most obvious one, and most Russell Group universities run their own programme. Then you've got Amgen Scholars that runs at Cambridge, Oxford and Imperial. The Francis Crick Institute in London also runs summer programmes. The BBSRC and the MRC both fund vacation placements through universities. And what I did is I actually went abroad to Cape Town through a programme called VA Corps, and this gave me experience in a biotech lab, which is very helpful during my PhD applications. And honestly, some international experience does really stand out in applications. And I want to be really clear about this. These programs exist because supervisors want students in their lab, and they also want to give students the first opportunity. You are not expected to walk in already knowing everything. You're expected to be curious, reliable, and willing to learn. And that's honestly the whole brief. So, apply. And this leads me to point 3, and that is build a technical skill. And this is one you can start today with no access to a lab. What you need is a laptop and internet connection. So it's important to pick a technical skill that labs actually use. For example, R, Python, MATLAB. Now, here's why this is important. When you send a cold email to your supervisor, You can casually mention, I've been teaching myself R for data analysis, or I'm getting familiar with ImageJ from following some online protocols. So now you're no longer just a curious undergrad, but you're someone who can be useful from day one. And this changes the conversation completely. And don't worry, you do not need to spend your money. There are free courses everywhere. For example, YouTube, Coursera, Khan Academy. Even the documentation for most of these are very well written. So pick one, spend a few weeks on it and add it to your CV. It costs nothing, but some time. Now the fourth thing, and this is the most overlooked thing in this whole list, and that is leverage your dissertation. Most people finish their final year project, breathe a sigh of relief and think, that's it, they've finally done it. It's over and they never have to think about it again. But this is a missed opportunity because your dissertation is actually a whole research project. It had a question, it had a methodology, and a conclusion. Even if you think nothing worked and nothing went well, you still learn how to think like a scientist, and this is very important. So change your mindset. Stop thinking about your dissertation like a piece of coursework that you had to do, and start treating it like your first piece of independent research. Practice talking about it out loud. What was your question? What did you find? What would you do differently? What would be the logical next step? Because in a PhD interview, your supervisor would ask, tell me about previous work experience. And your dissertation is a completely legitimate answer. You just need to frame it the way a researcher would, not a student submitting homework. Okay, so now I want to end with something that I think is the most important part of this video. And I know people think that you have to have this perfect academic trajectory, a 4.0 GPA, a first-class degree, but honestly, I think it's more useful to hear the real version. Building a research portfolio is not easy and is not clean. You'll cold email 20 supervisors and only hear back from 2. You would spend weeks learning R and still think you're learning nothing. But honestly, this is research. This is a job description. A failed experiment, a cold email bounces, a data set that doesn't cooperate. These are not signs that you're not cut out for this. This is actually the training ground. So yes, build a research portfolio, but let it be a real one. Let's include the failures, because this is what makes a supervisor trust that you're going to be okay when things go wrong during your PhD. So to bring it all together, your grades are the filter, but your research portfolio is the case. And you can start building that case today with a cold email to a lab, to a summer application, and with a technical skill you decided to learn. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more PhD advice and tips. And check out all my other videos. I'll see you in the next one.